Fight fans, welcome back to Carlo Prusa MMA. I'm Carlo Prusa, and ladies and gentlemen, I am with a guest who's been on here a handful of times, probably so many that I've lost count at this point. About a week ago, me and him were talking about making his UFC debut. We're a week later, he's got 75,000 followers. He's one of the biggest names in mixed martial arts right now. He is the machine. He is Mr. Malcolm Wellmaker. Malcolm, my goodness, man, how are you doing?
I'm doing incredible, fantastic. There's not the words to describe how great life is for me right now, man.
Absolutely, man. You know, you made your UFC debut, Kansas City, last Saturday. Took on a guy in Cameron Saaiman, a guy who won on the Contender, 3-fight win streak. You know, been on a bit of a losing skid going into your performance, but you know, a guy that's really tough, a guy who made a name for himself. You're able to pick up a huge performance bonus winning victory in the first 2 minutes of the contest. You know, obviously that finish was nasty. You're able to drop him with the right hook. Following that victory, you're on the ground, you're looking up. What was going through your head?
Man, that was the moment that the past 8 years of my life have been building up to. You know, I've had so many moments of success, even when I knocked out Adam Bramhold on the Contender Series. I've had all these great moments of success that didn't make me emotional because I knew, you know, I was going back home and clocking in on Monday. But, you know, I knew what was possible to come from a successful night in Kansas City. So when I knocked him out, you know, I took a knee. I looked at the crowd going crazy, the replay on the Jumbotron, and realized just how successful I was going to be after that shot. It was overwhelming, man. It was the most overwhelming moment I've had in my whole mixed martial arts career.
Absolutely. You know, obviously that knockout was so amazing, but I think what a lot of people aren't talking about is the strategy used to set up that knockout. I mean, it was unbelievable. You know, I was watching it and I was kind of surprised he didn't try to take you down. I was absolutely very shocked. 45 seconds into it, I was like, okay, I like this. I like this. The way you were able to cut him off, position his back up against the cage where he had no choice but to come forward, and you were able to cut him, found him in the with the counter. Was there a point in there, 30, 45 seconds into it, where you knew you had this?
Yeah, I knew for sure I had him in an exchange shortly before the one that knocked him out. There was an exchange where he entered and he actually caught me because he threw the rear hand twice, which was kind of awkward. And the second rear hand actually landed when I tried to throw that same counter. But even though he landed the punch on me, he gave me the look that we drilled the whole count. You know what I mean? And I missed it a little bit on the first time. But when he did it that first time, I knew, oh, he's gonna do it again. And when he did it again, man, I was ready, and I hit him just picture perfect right on the jaw.
Were you shocked that he didn't try to take you down?
Shocked is not the word, man. I was 100% confident. If you'd have asked me how confident I was before the fight, I'd have bet my house that within the first minute he was gonna shoot for my legs. But not once did he even level change, and it truly baffled me, man.
You know, when you landed that shot, did you know instantly that that was it?
100%, man. When I landed that shot, I saw him falling in slow motion, and that was one of the most dramatic falls from one of my punches I've seen in quite some time.
You know, one thing we talked about a little bit before that I think was so unique about it. First time I ever watched you fight, Savannah, Georgia, took on Langston Sykes, rest in peace. And the
Yeah.
knockout was very, very similar to what we watched on Saturday. I think the only difference was you knocked Langston out with the left, and this one was with the right. Were you able to watch it back and see the similarities?
Yeah, when the knockout happened on both of them, I mean, there's this identical demeanor that I have when I get a finish like that, and it's just like this extreme calmness and coolness, almost like I knew it was gonna happen anyway. I take the mouthpiece off, I walk off, I tuck it in my waistband, and I take a knee to make sure my opponent's okay before I celebrate. And it was the exact same scene. If you go put them next to each other, I'm sure it's scary how close they look.
Could you hear how loud it was in there?
Man, it was when I say loud. Oh man, first of all, I've never fought in front of a crowd that big. But every reaction they had was like the most like full sound I've ever experienced while fighting. Like the body shot that I threw right before I hit him with the hook to the head, I heard the crowd go ooh, and it was like I felt the ooh like warm the cage. it was incredible, man. It was so fun fighting in front of a crowd that big.
Now following the contest, some videos online, you were able to embrace it. You were signing autographs. You were shaking hands. I think you're doing it so much. They told you, let's go. We
Yeah,
got the
yeah.
next fight coming on. Was it just a cloud nine feeling in that moment?
Yeah, that was my first time doing this. So when I walked out the cage, I didn't even think about the fact that I was gonna walk past all these fans on my way down through the tunnel. So when I walked past all these fans and I realized I could touch their hands and take pictures, I was like, oh, hell yeah, like let's do it. So, I took as many pictures as I could, sign gloves, hug people. And yeah, it got to the point where they was like, hey man, we gotta keep going, we gotta keep going. And I was sad I had to, cut some of the fans out of the pictures and autographs, but man, it was so fun, man.
I think one thing that the casual fans don't realize is no fighter's in this by themselves. Each fighter has their team. You're absolutely no exception. The guys in your corner, Jake, Joel, Pops, that's your family. I mean, you've told me from many of interviews ago, Pops is who you consider as a father figure in your life. Jake and Joel are like brothers for you. To have them through the journey when you're fighting in Kentucky, when you're fighting Conflict MMA, when you're fighting on Icon FC, when you're fighting in all these promotions, amateur, pro, to be able to take them with you to something like that, have them in your corner and be able to walk in and out with them. Looking back on it, can you even describe what that means to you?
Man, people think, or people would think that my life dream was just to make it to the UFC and be a full-time fighter. But my life dream was to make it to the UFC with my guys and be a full-time fighter, to give back to them just a small piece of how much they've done for me, man. If you could just look at the kid I was when they found me and the man they helped me become, the struggles I had to go through, and they stood right there by me. It's priceless. It's much more valuable than being in the UFC without them. So to be able to have them on ESPN with me in Kansas City, wearing Venom sweatsuits and be the first out of our camp to be able to give that to them, man, it's worth more than any amount that I got from that fight.
That crowd was absolutely crazy for that fight. Not even the fans, but all the UFC names, all the big Diego Lopez and Jamal Hales and Khalil Roundtrees, and like half the UFC was at that place. It felt like, some big names on the card. Walking into the back after, were you able to mix it up? Congratulations from any big time UFC guys.
Yeah, almost everybody you named, man, I ran into after my knockout, because as I'm leaving, a lot of the athletes was arriving, man. So Giga Chikadze, me and him had a great time this whole fight week. And there was multiple times we talked and befriended each other. So when he saw me after my knockout, like he literally hugged me, embraced me, and held his hand on my cheek and was like, brother, he told me how proud of me he was. Giga Chikadze is my best friend, first of all. I want to say that. So, we had a moment, he had Benil Dariush with him, and Benil literally complimented my boxing and told me how clean what I did was. I ran into Jamal Hill. He was coming in when I was going out. He stopped me. He dapped me up, complimented what I did, man. It was just like person after person, like guys after guys. Cub Swanson was there. Just so much love from guys that were, people I only knew through a screen before last week.
Not only did you get one of the more viral knockouts that we have seen this year, you won a performance bonus. You won the $50K bonus. I think only like 3 or 4 athletes got it that whole night. You were lucky enough to get one of them. Where were you? Who called you? How did you find out?
So I actually, I came back to the stadium obviously to watch the rest of the fights, and I wasn't even thinking about the bonus, man. I was just happy with the way everything was going. And when the last fight wrapped up, Ian Gary and Carlos Prates finished. I actually was on the walkout from my section, meeting one of the guys who came to watch me fight, and my phone rings. And at that point, fans had started noticing me, and I'm taking photos. And I pick up the phone. It's my manager. And I'm expecting him to ask me where I'm at so we can go get some food and celebrate and stuff. And he said, we got the bonus. And I remember immediately Pops was facing away from me. I grabbed him by the hood. I snatched it, and his eyes was big because he didn't know what was going on. I said, Pops, we did it. We got it. He's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, we got the knockout bonus. And like we hugged. And it was just this moment of, man, life couldn't even get any sweeter. Like, look at how beautiful this is, man. It was just so huge, and we jumping around, hugging each other. The fans are probably thinking we're crazy, but it was a magical moment, man. While I was still in the actual arena.
Leading up to this fight, we've had many phone calls together, and I think in every single phone call you told me you were going to quit your job if you got that 50K bonus, and you could see it in your sights. For it to actually come true, you go in there Monday morning. Was that one of the more surreal things of this whole experience?
Yeah, man. That was one of the craziest moments because, I remember waking up on Monday morning and thinking, you got to go quit your job. You know what I mean? Like I told the whole world I was going to do it. I've been planning on doing it for the past, however many years of my life. I'm finally in this position. And it's like, this is it, bro. You've been working this job for how many years? You've been around these guys for how many years? But you called us to do something bigger, and that means that you have to quit your job. Was the craziest moment of it all. I got dressed slow. You know what I mean? I drove to work slow. I really absorbed the moment. I didn't even listen to music, man. And I walked in, and the guys already knew what time it was, man. I had a seat at the table. We talked and celebrated for about an hour, and I got my tools, and they sent me on my way.
Overall, you've been on this journey for a very long time, to a point where not many people knew who you were. It was a slow climb, it was a slow build, a very fast, I guess you would say, climb to, I don't know if we're at the top yet, but climb to the direction where we want to go. What would you say is one of the biggest things that you've learned throughout this experience?
Man, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned through this experience is being grateful, being a good person, um, being humble, working, honest work, keeping your head down, waiting your time. These qualities go so much farther than people know. And it's hard to maintain them a lot of times, especially in our fight game. There was so many people I knew personally came up alongside that I saw getting shots before me. There were so many people I saw getting bonuses that I felt like I could compete with. And it's so easy to have this, immediate reaction of envy and wanting to take a route of being, a little bit more of a loudmouth and disrespectful to get there faster. But being humble, being the respectful way, being disciplined. When I finally did get to my destination, man, the amount that has come back to me has been 100-fold, man, and it's still, even at this moment, surprising me every day with how much is coming from the success that I have.
We've talked about before all the sacrifices that you've had to been through, and every fighter has to go through sacrifices, but man, I mean, you've had to go through an absolute crazy amount of them. You told me in one of the interviews we did before the Contender Series, there was times where you thought about quitting. You're like, this is enough. This is crazy. Think you ever would have been able to live with yourself if you made that decision after knowing what just happened?
After knowing what just happened, absolutely not, man. This is not just, making it to the UFC. This is making it to the UFC and having the most viral entrance to the organization that you could possibly have. I mean, the knockout itself was ice cold, man. I can't count how many times I've seen it, remixed on the internet, all over social media, on every biggest platform, SportsCenter Countdown, ESPN. I mean, it's everywhere. And then, the story of staying solid and grinding for however many years I have just to be able to finally quit with some security, man. All that stuff is just too valuable, man, and it's worth so much more than what I gave up to get it.
This week on social media, I mean, I've been watching your social media every 3 or 4 hours because it's so entertaining. It just keeps going up and up and up. And we started, I think, before the fight around 20,000 followers on social media on Instagram. You're at 75,000 followers on your Instagram right now, and the thing just keeps going and going. Obviously, you posted that post about quitting your job. It kind of went viral. The who's who of the UFC has literally commented on the thing. I mean, it's every single major mixed martial arts journalism outlet is sharing it. Were you shocked that it went that crazy on social?
Yeah, 100%. I remember when I was walking out of my job, I was like, I know a lot of people that's bought into my story, and those are the people that I want to update. So I was like, I'll take this little, short little selfie video walking out with my stuff. And my true intention was only to give the people who have been following me and caring about my blue collar journey the update because of how invested in my story they are. That's really the only reason why I was even on the fence about posting it. So I posted it just for that reason. So for it to go as big as it did, I feel like it's gotten more runtime than my knockout has. Is crazy, and it just shows how powerful the story of a fighter is, more so than their actual performance.
So obviously you're from Georgia, representing Augusta.
That's right.
Big event coming to Georgia in a couple of months. UFC Atlanta. Another thing you did in your call out there at the end, Paul Felder set you up so
That's
beautifully
right.
with it. You want to get on that card. Dana White said some comments that seemed pretty promising in that post-fight press conference. Is this where the mindset is right now? Are we pretty confident we're going to be in Atlanta?
Yeah. I'm very confident I'm gonna be in Atlanta. Right after the fight ended, I walked to the back, and when I turned around, it was right there, Sean Shelby. And I said to Sean, I brought up the Atlanta card, and he said, "Don't worry, man, we're on it." So he's already given me the confirmation that he's working on it. I talked to my manager that night when we was at the hotel, and he said he talked to Sean Shelby. They got the ball rolling. They're working on getting me on there. They want me on there. I want on there. My management wants me on there. Everybody's all in on it. So at this point, it's just, wait for a contract.
Last time they were in Atlanta, I believe it was the night of Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier and Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya fighting in Atlanta, fighting in the Phillips Arena or State Farm Arena, whatever it's called now. Has that been something that's been on the bucket list ever since you began this journey?
Nah, man, my bucket list was short. My bucket list was just to get into the UFC and get the Venom sweatsuits. Once I checked that off, I was going to make a new bucket list of what I wanted to accomplish. So when the Atlanta card popped up, man, it was just, the stars aligning for me. And so now it's definitely, part of my bucket list along with all the other stuff I want to accomplish.
Speaking of Venom sweatsuits, after a viral knockout like that, obviously you're going to get a lot of attention. But I have heard that you left, you went back to the hotel, you went and came back to watch the rest of the fights, walked through the front door. Your whole team was wearing the sweatsuits still and wore the gear. How many pictures did you take before you even actually made it to sit down to watch the fights?
Man, yeah, lesson learned on that. When we go back to the arena, we're all getting incognito. We ain't wearing the Venom sweatsuits. But before I actually was able to sit down and watch the first fight, man, it had to be well over 50 photos, maybe like 80 photos I took, man. And before the end of the night, like when people started realizing where I was sitting at and when the stadium was letting out and one person asked for a picture of another person, it was hundreds, man. It was hundreds of photos, and I took as many as I could. Like I want to be a man of the people. I want to make sure all the fans have a connection with me and something to remember me by. So I took as many as I could, and it got to the point where I was like, hey, guys, we gotta walk while we take photos because the security was closing down the place. But hundreds, man, and they was all fantastic.
One thing I think is pretty cool with you, with being in that gym, you're in a gym, a lot of younger fighters in it. I think you and Jake were the only ones who have had a really long pro career. Joel now is starting to establish himself. You've always been that parent type figure, always kind of that leader type figure for a lot of the younger guys. Now you're at a point where obviously, you're blowing up, you're catching a lot of popularity, you're becoming a name in the UFC. Does that even push you even more to continue that and act that role model to inspire others in Georgia and your gym and just in general to try to do this like you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. As you said, like there's guys coming up in my gym right now that I'm a source of guidance for. And they know me personally. So now that I have so much more influence and so many more people are seeing me, it just pushes me even farther in the direction of wanting to make sure that whoever is watching me, whoever's wanting to accomplish what I accomplish, I try to show them the right way to do it, or the way that I think is the right way to do it. Being respectful, being a stand-up guy, being honest, and having some discipline. So yeah, I'm trying to bring that idea of being guidance around with everything that I do.
Obviously, if you're fighting in Atlanta, I think a lot of people are going to buy tickets to watch you fight. Obviously, so many people in the state of Georgia. One thing, it's kind of funny when you look at it. I think MMA is the only sport with this. When you're fighting in the regional scene, you're more than just a fighter. You're also a salesman. Like, you're selling tickets.
Yeah,
the day of the fight,
right.
You're getting phone calls. Hey, man, where can I pick up my tickets? Where can I pick up tickets? Do you miss selling tickets? Do you miss those days?
No. Oh, Lord. Bro, selling tickets was the most frustrating part of fighting on the local scene, man. I mean, the months leading up to the fight, every single day, I'm running, I'm meeting people, trying to get as many tickets sold as possible. I even was making like these little postcards with me on it, with my social media plugs and like a thank you note. I was doing everything I could to try to really push it and sell as much as I could. But like you said, it's just absolutely frustrating trying to keep count of how much money I owe the promoter, trying to know how much I should get paid off of it. And like you said, man, I got friends the day of the fight, like, can I get a ticket? Can I get a ticket? Can I get a ticket? One of the most aggravating things to deal with. But it makes it sweet, when you get to this point, and you don't have to push tickets no more. They got to go online and just buy them, like the next guy. So that's one thing I definitely don't miss at all.
For you in a perfect world, how active do we want to be this year?
Very active. As long as I'm healthy, man, I want to fight as often as possible. Especially with where I'm at right now. I feel like I'm at a skill level right now to be able to take on all the competition that I should be seeing in the near future. Maybe when I start getting to fighting these big names and these ranked opponents, and like it's gonna take me a legit game plan and full blown camp to prepare for these guys, maybe we can slow it down a little bit. But as of right now, I'm healthy. Call my phone and let's get a contract signed.
All last week, me personally, I was like getting like heart palpitations, knowing that we're 3 days out from this, 4 days out from this, 2 days out from this. I FaceTimed you Friday night when you're at Olive Garden, and you're talking to me, and instantly you were so calm. You're like, oh my gosh, dude, I saw Giga Chikadze. I saw this guy. We did this. We did this. You were fanboying in there. When you went in the cage, you couldn't believe that you were even fighting in the cage. Walking out to Gucci Mane, had the whole place going absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
How free did you feel in there?
This is something that I said before, but when we was on the phone, I told you, man, I didn't feel like I had to beat Cameron Saaiman to be living a dream. I was living the dream. I was a part of the UFC. I had access to the nutrition team from the Performance Institute. They gave me rehydration protocol. I mean, everything I needed, infrared blankets for cutting weight, the media team, everybody was treating me in a way that I never thought I could experience. I mean, and they were all, responding very well to my kindness, man. They enjoyed me. They enjoyed my company, man. That whole week was magical. So going into the fight, man, I was already content. I was already happy. And I didn't have to feel tied to success, tied to a knockout, tied to an expectation, because the mission was already done. So when I went in there and the bell rung, I just did what I do. I didn't overthink at all. Everything was in slow motion, and I just fought the way that I fought. And it was the best state of mind for me to be in, to be able to accomplish what I did.
For you, has it even still sunk in that you're a UFC fighter and this is all happening?
Not quite, man. Even when I went to Contender Series, I felt like I was the same guy, and even now, I feel like the same exact dude, man. I got the same people around me. It's funny. I was at the gym tonight wrapping up. I was the last guy out, as always. 10 o'clock at night. I'm spraying down the mats, and I turned around and one of the teammates was recording me, cleaning the mats. UFC start cleaning the mats. But like I don't think about it too much, man. I'm doing what I do. I'm training with the guys I train with, and it's same old me, same old Malcolm, just doing what I do, man.
The first time we returned to Augusta after winning on the Contender Series, I mean, you guys almost shut down the airport. There were so many people in there. What was the reception like coming back this time?
Same thing, man. I should have known better. I halfway thought I was exhausted. Listen, I didn't go to sleep for 2 days. I was up all Saturday night and all Sunday. So when we got back to the airport, I'm like, oh man, finally I get to go home, get some rest, eat something good, and be comfortable. And I was thinking that, and I was like, you know what? Let me not get my hopes up. And I'll be damned, man. I walked through those doors, and there's a huge crowd for me again, man, showing me love, screaming for me, and just happy for me, man, celebrating my success. And that meant more to me than obviously going home and getting some rest, showing love and seeing all the people that care about me.
It's kind of crazy to think 8 years ago, you were a kid, you were ever at Georgia Southern University, things weren't doing well, had yourself kicked out of housing, got yourself arrested, was able to find a gym, turn your life around. What would that 22-year-old kid say if he knew one day this would all happen?
Man, he would think that, all the struggle growing up was worth it. I remember growing up and feeling misunderstood. I remember growing up and feeling like, trapped in my path, that I wasn't really going to be doing anything too great, that I wasn't going to be really remembered. I just felt normal. I just felt like I was going through the motions. Not that I would have an impact on the world. And if he knew that this would be done, man, he would have this sense of peace that didn't come for years and years and years until after all the grinding, after all the sacrifice, and after all the hardship. He would just have some peace.
Throughout your time on the regional scene, obviously you developed a lot of close friends. One of them, obviously, Torres Finney, another guy from Georgia, a guy who's doing his own thing as well. Kind of funny. I've talked to Torres about this a couple nights ago. You two, obviously, kind of similar stature, both making your debuts. We have one guy, who's like the princess, if you will, of the UFC right now. Is the ultimate person everybody loves. Torres Finney's turned into like the villain for whatever reason. People are bashing his style. He's having fun with it. He's doing interviews with sunglasses on.
I love it.
If you don't like it, come beat me.
That's right.
It's awesome. Pretty cool to see now you and another guy that you're close with. You guys are running Georgia MMA, man.
100%. 100%. I love Torres, man. Anybody that knows me, knows my history, knows me and your history. They know how much I love Torres, man. My auntie, anytime he's fighting, she's like, we got to come over, put the fights on the TV. I've literally walked into my auntie's house on a Sunday and she's had his highlights on. Like, she loves him, man. We love him. He's been nothing but a gentleman, polite and loving every time I've ever seen him before we were ever close to this level. So even though the world might not like his success, I love his success and I celebrate it, man.
Obviously with you, I think one of the reasons why this is really going so crazy right now, there's a couple components here. One, I think is something a lot of people resonate with. You're able to live out your dream. You literally got to quit your job in front of the whole world doing something that you love. Two, the way you fight, man, you put butts in seats. You go out there, you get knockouts. You're looking for the finish, man. You ain't going in there trying to get a decision. You're looking for the finish, and you're knocking guys out ice cold. How important do you feel this world of entertainment and personality is in mixed martial arts?
Man, it's just as important, man. You have to be able to entertain. You have to be somebody that the people can love. And I understood that a long time, way before I got to this stage. You know what I mean? Like, being able to talk to people, being able to resonate with people, and having that style that people love is all things that was by design, man. I knew who I wanted to be. I knew the success I wanted to have alongside, winning my fights. And it was something that I worked on, man. And it all came together at this point. I feel like everything was put into place with my character, with my image, with my social media, with my style of fighting. It was all worked on. And so when I finally did introduce myself to the world, I was ready. I was what they needed.
Speaking of introducing yourself to the world, the guy who did get to introduce yourself to the world was Bruce Buffer. Wearing the nice suit, doing the big introduction. Here you are, bobbing your head the whole time. Was that an experience in its own?
Let me tell you something, bro. I'm a fighter. I understand psychological warfare. Cameron Saaiman was staring me down from the moment I left the tunnel to the moment the bell rang. I couldn't even stare back down because I'm sitting here with my mind blown that Bruce Buffer is looking me in my eyes, holding the card and screaming my name. Like, bro, yes, I want to stare at you. Yes, I want to let you know we're about to go to war, but hold up, because this is Bruce Buffer. This is new for me. I didn't even know he was going to be there. Oh, man, I have pictures. Jake had my phone and he took pictures of me with Bruce Buffer, like literally screaming, like pointing at him. And it's just like the funniest thing ever, because that was probably, out of all the people that I met and had, like, that moment of shock with, that was the biggest one. I was starstruck when I saw Bruce Buffer, 100%.
Do you feel there's not anyone in that division at 135 that you couldn't knock out?
Oh, no, I can knock people out all the way up to middleweight, bro. I got some power, man. I'm telling you. And not just do I have God-given power, man. I have precision, man. If you go and look at the shots I knock people out with, man, there's these just small, super small windows. When I knocked out Adam Bramhold, I threw the punch over his shoulder and hit him right on the temple. When I hit Cameron Saaiman, it clipped nothing but his jaw. That combination of precision and power, I believe, makes me capable of putting guys out well above my weight class. So if you talk about 135, 100%, man, we're all human. I couldn't take one of my shots.
When you look at that 135 division, it's one of the best divisions in the whole UFC. You look at the guys in the top 15, and then you go look at the guys that are not even ranked, and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy's not ranked, this guy's not ranked, this guy's not ranked. It's crazy. You're in a murderer's row of a division. Does that excite you even more?
It does. Because, Dana White said it when I got signed, but he said, let's get this guy some fun fights. Like that's all that's gonna be my whole career. They're gonna put me in there with people to give you entertainment. When you put me in there with somebody, you're gonna be expecting an absolute knockout or a slugfest. And trust me, that's not gonna change about me. I'm gonna go in there every single time, and my game plan is gonna be able to put leather on their jaw and knock them clean out. So I said this to you before the fight as well, and I still stand by it that whether I knock a guy out in the first round or I go to war with him the whole fight, I think the world is gonna love me. I think they're gonna be entertained, and I'm just excited to give the people what they want.
It's kind of interesting when you watch the Dana White Contender Series last year. Dana White said something throughout the season. I'm not looking for 30-year-old contenders. I think I got a 30-year-old contender at 135 sitting in front of me right now. Knowing that you're 30 years old, knowing that you're not a spring chicken. I mean, you're not old by any means. You're just getting into your prime here. But does that still kind of even reinforce the fact, it's go time? We are just going to do this. We're going to ride this momentum, and we're going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I do have to respect the fact that my start in my career is a little bit later than the best age to start it. I don't have a lot of room for error. I don't have a lot of room for setbacks, but I got time to work, man. I'm 30. I mean, guys compete for years and still put on great performances. And, it gives me a reason to not be relying on my athleticism or speed. Like, I have to make sure my technique's up to par. I have to make sure that I can land that punch on guys that are faster than me, guys that are stronger than me. So I'm excited, man. I'm happy. I'm 30, but at the end of the day, I made it. I made it, and you can't take it away from me, man. So I'm happy as can be. I'm going to get the people what they want, and we're going to get as much as we can out of this ride.
I was watching some of these prediction videos and, some of the things that they were saying against you is like only 9 fights, not as experienced, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you have had 10 or 11 amateur contests. I mean, you have won 18 fights. You don't even see that still that much anymore. You and some other guys have tons and tons of amateur fights, while others, they're making that transition after 4 or 5 AMI fights. That decision to wait so long, I'm sure you're sick of it. I'm sure you want to turn pro after the 6th or 7th one. Is that one of the reasons why we've been on this journey, why we've led to this success?
Yeah, 100%, man. Because, I mean, you and I both know I could have went pro 2 or 3 years earlier and maybe made it to the UFC at the age of 27, 26. But, I mean, look at me now, man. Like, I made it to this level. I got put in the cage with somebody that not somebody that we thought was, somebody that was a legitimate, talented prospect, man. And, I mean, look what I did to him. And that just only goes to show you that I took the right steps in preparation before I got here, years and years with my career before I was in this position. So I think we did it right. I think the proof is there, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I think something that's pretty funny, I think very few people realize this. When you were on the way to the Contender Series flight, is it true you originally were supposed to fly out of Augusta and that changed to flying out of Atlanta for some reason?
Yeah, man, you can blame that on us not being frequent flyers, man. So I actually got a vlog out that I did, and if you go and watch the vlog for my Contender Series pre-shoot, we got to the airport like 39 minutes before the flight was supposed to leave, and you're supposed to be ready to board 30 minutes before. So, granted, technically we made it in time, but one thing went wrong, 2 things went wrong, 3 things went wrong, and next thing you know, we had to pack up and drive to Atlanta just to be able to catch a connecting flight to Vegas. But it made for a good time. We got the memories, and it was a lesson learned.
How early were you at the airport this time going to Kansas City?
2 hours, bro. We got there. I sat there. I almost killed the battery on my phone, man. We got there early as we needed to be to make sure that we did not have any more mishaps, man.
All right, Malcolm, brother. Last question for you, man. Here we are. Made the debut. That's behind us. Looking ahead, we have 8 months left of the year. Hopefully in June, you're going to be fighting again in UFC Atlanta. Hopefully somewhere down the line, you'll be doing it again before this year closes. In a perfect world, what happens the rest of the year, man?
Oh, man, perfect world. What happens for the rest of the year, man? I go in there in June. I get another absolute knockout. I push this hype train a little bit more. later this year I get another opportunity to fight again, possibly a little bit more of a challenge, and show a little bit more of how high of a level I can fight at, and really set myself up for 2026 to be the year that I break the rankings and really, really, really make a statement as far as what I can do in the bantamweight division.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Malcolm, dude, this whole thing is absolutely insane. You know, we've been cool since your second pro fight. I mean, so long ago, able to follow you fight all these smaller promotions over the Southeast, and, you know, come to a point now where you have tons of followers. You're on that road to success. And I mean, right now, you're literally one of the most talked about names. There's no one on this planet that deserves this more than you, my friend. It's just an honor and a privilege to be able to be on this journey with you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, like you said, you've been with me since before the world knew anything about me, man. And you know as much as I know, we talk way more than just these interviews that we do. So thank you for being on the ride with me, man. I love you dearly, and I'm excited to see what we accomplish.
Absolutely, brother. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Carl Perusa. He is the machine. He is Mr. Malcolm Wellmaker. Hopefully, we'll see him in Atlanta in June. Take it easy, fight fans.